morning, Los Angeles. Hello, lovers of the black and gold. Hello, fans of Major League Soccer, old and new. And of course, hello to the millions.
And millions
of Defenders of the Bank listeners. This is episode 379 of the LAFC podcast your mother warned you about. Even more so because I'm on today. I'm the foul mouth, beer chugging out of my shoe or out of a funnel misfit. I'd say my other co-hosts play it safe, but I say to hell with that. The bottom line is I'm here to raise hell, drink, pod, repeat, and that's the bottom line because Philly 316 said so. And how about that for a nice segue? That's actually my name, Christian Philemon, better known as Philly, the platinum-tipped flamingo. There will be no scarf as he had business to tend to in Oakland and Sacramento for the next 48 hours. For those that don't know, Scarf is part owner of the Oakland Ballers, an independent baseball team that competes in the Pioneer League, which was founded in 2024 as a result of the Athletics sleazing their way to Sacramento en route to Vegas. But of course, joining me in his place is a perfect individual, a man who has a successful link in the series between FC Dallas and LAFC, and may be the only and the last member of the black and gold community that got to witness LAFC win in Frisco back in October of 2021. He's our resident sober Irishman. We might as well call him Chris O'Douls, but y'all know him as Chris LAFC Lafferty.
Well, in honor of coming back from Texas last night, a big old howdy doody to everybody in the chat. Cowboy Chris makes his return. That's what happens when we play a team from Texas. My man Philly, it is great to be back with you. My name is Chris O'Douls Lafferty. O'Douls is the middle name. And I am pumped to be back here. And you said, for those of you who don't know, Scarf is a part owner of the Oakland Ballers. I mean, I don't even think I knew that. When did this happen? Obviously, 2024 when they started, but.
Well, anybody could be a part owner of the Oakland Ballers. It's not as big of an investment as one would think. In fact, if you actually Google them, you could put in a request for a stake in there. It's an interesting scenario. I know a lot of USL teams had done that in the past. I think Chattanooga was another one that did that. I know Orange County Soccer Club did that recently. I know a few people that have bought some of those ownerships. And look, shares don't go for that much. I'm not going to disclose how much of a stake the Scarf owns in the Oakland Ballers. But either way, that's the reason he's there. Pretty darn cool. And then he's going to actually see the A's play in Sacramento. But as has been the case lately, at least my last couple of times on the show, is the fact that we start talking about things other than the beautiful game itself. Now, myself, Philly, alongside, you took off your hat. I was going to call you Hop-Along Lafferty. Got plenty of stuff to talk about. Laugh. We got ourselves a new midfielder. And hopefully, bearing what the deal is with Igor Jesus, it couldn't have come at a better time. Geez. What was that?
I said, "Oh, gee," and no pun intended. When he went down, Igor did. I've been so concerned. I haven't heard any word yet on him, but man, you're right, Philly. That's exactly what I was thinking of when I've been excited for Moran to come in and everything. I just would never ever want it to be perfect timing because of an injury occurring to any of our guys. I mean, there's no good time. I never want an injury to any of our guys anyway, but I watched it. I couldn't believe it. I was so sad watching Igor come off the pitch last night.
Well, I mean, you kind of buried the topic in the 25th minute of the game, but you're 100% right, though. Andy Moran, though, does come at an opportune time. Let's say that, an opportune time. He's on loan from English Premier side, Brighton and Hove Albion. We got him through 2025. Now, he's part of that U22 initiative. He's going to occupy that international roster spot, but of course, everything is pending the international transfer certificate and something that plagues Major Arena Soccer League and the USL, a P1 visa, which which obviously in MLS is going to be a lot easier to acquire than USL. But these P1 visas have been a pain in the rear for some of the other smaller divisions here in the American footballing pyramid. He spent the last 2 seasons on loan from Brighton to sides like Blackburn Rovers and Stoke City. Made his first team debut, this is very impressive, as a 17-year-old with Brighton in a cup match. And even before that, he made his professional debut for Irish side Bray Wanderers when he became the youngest player ever, making a debut at 15 years old. And then the following year became the Bray Wanderers' youngest goal scorer at 16 years and 135 days old. At 21, made his senior international debut, which he is now. I'm sorry, he was 21 now. At 19, he did it. And, that's, again, reinforcements in the midfield. Amen to that. It got me to thinking, I was going to call you Scarf. Geez, Lafferty, there's so many club teams around Southern California, across the U.S. that are called Albion. But Albion is a literary term that means Britain or England. And I have to scratch my head going, why would anybody in Southern California refer to themselves as Albion, or even Borussia for that matter, which is the Latin name for Prussia, the historic German kingdom? I always found names like that hilarious for American sides.
Yeah, there's a lot of copycat going on in American football teams. I don't know. The USL team that I root for is Hartford Athletic. I don't know. I think a lot of people in Hartford are like, "Oh, cool, they're athletic, great. What do they do?" You know what I mean? I think it's one of those things in sports that just doesn't translate too well yet when it comes to soccer in America, but. I don't know. Maybe they're just a lot of these upstart teams or these smaller teams just want to build themselves up to be a bigger brand to what they hopefully aspire to be. Maybe that's the reason why they do it. I don't know. All I know is that it does make me giggle when I hear about places like Albion or Brighton, and then I drive through the city, like the streets of LA, and I see street names that are Brighton Avenue and Albion Street and things like that. I don't know. It pops me, but maybe that's just me.
I mean, again, I've called games against teams called Albion, like San Diego, a huge club, by the way, no disrespect to them, but you're basically referring yourselves as Britain, San Diego. I don't know. It's just an observation. Yeah, that's neither here nor there. All right. There is no this day in LAFC history. And by the way, Ruben Rios, thank you for asking in the chat whether or not my coffee today was Irish. Since I'm hanging out with the sober Irishman, Chris O'Douls, no, there is no whiskey in my coffee. Now, again, no this day in LAFC history, but allow me to be the one that adds an entry into Scarf's journal. On August the 23rd of 2025, Heung-Min Son of LAFC registers his first career goal ever in a black and gold kit against FC Dallas on a hot and bothersome day in Frisco, Texas. There you have it. There you have it. My own entry in the Scarf's This Day in LAFC History Journal. Hopefully he words it the way he does, and I get a nickel for every time he does that moving forward. I'm glad he keeps this journal out because it's got to be about like this thick at this point. When we first started this pod, the first year, there wasn't much to talk about. Now I feel like it takes up a good 5 minutes of the start of the show.
Well, here's the first nickel you'll get for your your profits. There you go, buddy.
All right, awesome. I love it. We even got a Freddie Adu mention in the chat. Freddie Adu's career went edu relatively quickly. All right, so let's get into the actual recap itself. LAFC taking on the boys in Frisco. Now, I've been told, and we've been DM'd, that there are a lot of new people that have been listening to Defenders of the Bank, a lot of new people to Major League Soccer. So that being the case, we could take a step back just to give you a little quick history about the opposition. FC Dallas is a team that was founded in 1995, formerly as the Dallas Burn. They play in Frisco, Texas, much like we mentioned, and they are owned by the Hunt Sports Group. Got to give you a history lesson on the Hunt family and their ties to Major League Soccer down the road. Now, this is a team also known as Los Toros, by the way. I prefer to refer to them. Prefer to refer to them as as a FC ribeye steak. This is a team that last season finished in 11th place, didn't qualify for the postseason. In terms of their history in Major League Soccer, they've never won a chip. We have in 2022. They were runners-up, however, in 2010. They did win the Supporters' Shield in 2016, and they've managed to win the U.S. Open Cup as well in 1997 and 2016. Really, they haven't been a formidable side since the mid-2010s. 16-15, they were pretty good. They were actually okay the year LAFC inaugurated in 2018. But that's a brief history on FC Dallas. As far as LAFC's history is concerned between us and the former team called the Dallas Burn, 7 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws. But we haven't won on the road there since October 20th in 2021, a game in which Ryan Hollingshead was wearing an FC Dallas jersey, and he scored his final goal on that team before joining LAFC ahead of 2022. I mentioned in the opening, Laugh, you were at that game. You might have been the only LAFC member at that game.
If I recall correctly, there were, I think, 5 LAFC fans. There was a family of 4 that was sitting down a few rows in front of me. They had just moved to Texas from California like a year or 2 earlier, but they were, originals. They had a 32-52 scarf on. I was very impressed. I went up and talked to them afterwards. They were a very nice family. I digress. Yes, Ryan Hollingshead scored the opening goal in that contest in 2021. And I remember going, Hollingshead! Because I was just like very frustrated because he looked very good in that game. And then when I got to meet him a few years ago at a Flex event, I told him the story about how I first saw him score that opening goal and I was cursing his name. And now that I meet him, I'm like, Hollingshead, hey, he's a great dude. Glad we have him on our team now. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to bring any of that scoring luck for us since he's made his since he's come over to the black and gold. But no, yes, you're right. There were not many LAFC fans on that one. I don't think it was like an official road trip for the 32-52, and it was kind of a small crowd out there anyway, out in Frisco, not really close to Dallas, out in that suburban feel. And it did have more people than it did last night, that's for sure, because you saw all the tarps covering the sections, including the sections where I was sitting in that game. But that's another story for later on in the episode. However, yes, you're right. So to wrap it up, I was at the last game that we won at Toyota Stadium there in 2021. And I don't know. I'm hoping now that maybe this proves to everybody it's not superstition. It's not just me making something up. We got to start the GoFundMe, man, and I got to get down to Texas next year for this match. We got to break this curse. We got to do it.
In case anybody's wondering what Lafferty looked like in 2021 when LAFC won in Frisco the last time, there it is. There it is. And you might take notice of that incredibly well-crafted and stylish scarf that he's wearing there. That's a very good one. Lafferty, how's that 2021? You look like you barely surpassed puberty in this photo, dude.
Maybe. I mean, look. If you ask any of my family members who ask me what I'm doing in my life, I still haven't grown up. So it could very well be that in 2021 I was still going through that. Who knows? All I know is that it was a nice time down there. Kind of a subdued atmosphere when I went. The supporter section was small but mighty. They gave it their all, and it was definitely an atmosphere that they need to bring up. And talking about the atmosphere, they mentioned this on the broadcast where Dallas has been not a good team at their home this season. And the announcers are talking about, the commentators are talking about how, well, that's because there's not much of an atmosphere down at Toyota Stadium in Frisco. You've got first of all, you got a third of the stadium, more than a third of the stadium just cut off, because they're undergoing renovations. They're going to be very good renovations to that stadium once it's complete. But for now, in the next few years, they're going to have entire sections just tarped off and missing. And so that kind of contributes. It makes it kind of feel a little boring for them. So the players just aren't maybe as jazzed as they normally would be to play at their home stadium anywhere else. And, if you're on the road, kind of is a mental lapse for away teams too, because you're like, where am I playing? Where is the atmosphere that we're used to whenever we compete in these matches? It's just not there down in Texas. So it's going to be very subdued. I don't know if it's just the plans for their just the plans for the renovation, or if just the way the team's been going, the atmosphere isn't there for Texas. But hopefully we'll be able to see next year. Hopefully we'll get some more black and gold down there to get that place rocking. And I'll be leading the charge to get us down there and break this losing streak.
Well, fingers crossed on that. Unfortunately, that losing streak didn't get broken. Again, LAFC 7 wins against FC Dallas, 4 losses and 2 draws. Again, another reminder, I'd like to reiterate this week and finally break it. October 20th of 2021 was the last time LAFC did win. Now, as far as where we look in terms of the positioning on the tables, FC Dallas is a team that coming into the matchup was only 3 points shy of the 9th spot in the postseason. That's the wild thing about Major League Soccer to you newbies out there. You can have a piss poor season for the most part, get hot at the right time, and somehow sneak through the back door, giggity, and make your way into the postseason. So a very important fixture for the FC Dallas folks, and of course, the team themselves. They just came off of a 1-1 draw against their rivals, Austin. Now, the players to look out for, we talked about them on One More Sleep. Peter Musa, I'll talk a little bit more about him when we go into the starting lineups. A surprise there. He's obviously their bread and butter when it comes down to things. Another player equally as talented, up and coming, Logan Farrington. We'll talk about him as well. Shaq Moore, Lala Sabubakar. These players were mentioned quite a bit in the broadcast, and of course, we'll highlight them. As far as LAFC is concerned, going in, sitting in 4th position on the table, really wanting to squeak into that top 4 spot. I don't know at this point whether Supporters Shield is even going to be a part of the conversation. Probably not. Brillo Pad FC, that's how we're going to refer to them. Chrome FC, San Diego FC, whatever names you want to poke at them. They're having a historic season, and that's who LAFC is going to be playing against next season. But to finish top 4 is important because that means you've got the home field advantage throughout the course of the playoffs, and that's important because BMO Stadium is a very formidable place to play in a very nasty environment for the opposition. So that's the story as far as that's concerned. Both teams did meet one another back on July the 12th, a game in which LAFC won 2-0, but it was a hard contested 2-0 for that matter. So let's get into the actual game itself. Laugh. I'll talk about FC Dallas' starters real quick. You talk about LAFC. In between the sticks, Michael Collodi is the keeper for FC Dallas. Here's a young man who actually has been quite outstanding for FC Dallas as of late, coming on late for Martin Paz, one of Scarf's favorite keeper. He had himself a good name. Lala Sabubakar's got one of the best hair games in Major League Soccer. We remember him back at his days playing for the Colorado Rapids. Shaq Moore, U.S. men's international player. Sebastian Ibiaga, former member of LAFC and a Duke Blue Devil for that matter. Bernard Camingo, Patrickson Delgado, who really had an impact in the matchup, Anderson Julio, Christian Capis, the captain, Ramiro, the 19-year-old from Gremio, Kike Ferreira in the game, and of course, Logan Farrington. Those are your starters. MLS had them officially situated in a 4-2-3-1 formation, although they did end up coming in to start with a 3-4-3. These things are a bit more fluid. Logan Farrington in there, and here's the surprise. Starting up top in that striker role for Peter Musa. Peter Musa came down with some kind of an illness midweek, which is why he didn't get the start. This guy leads the team in goals. This guy leads the team in assists, and he's a dangerous scoring weapon for Coach Quill of FC Dallas. But not seeing him start, a good thing. But nevertheless, Logan Farrington, a deadly player. What do we have for LAFC, Scarf? Scarf, sorry, Lafferty. It's old habits. Have a tough time dying.
Scarf, what do we have, Scarf? Well, what we have, Laugh will tell you, in the pipes we had Hugo Lloris as as we all hope for every match. Hugo Lloris back in goal. In front of him, we had Sergi Palencia and Kosi Tafari. We also, in the midfield, we had the usual three of Timothy Tillman, Igor Jesus, more on him later, and Marky Delgado. Up front, we had Denny Bwanga. We had Son Heung-Min, and we had the old razzle dazzle himself making his start, Nathan or Daz up front. Also,
nice.
starting in the back, we had, I'm sorry, I missed over two guys. One, Eddie Segura, who I was very happy with, and also, as we talked about earlier in the game, who opened the scoring the last time that LAFC won there, but not for us, making his return to Texas after spending 9 seasons with them. Also defending Hugo Lloris in the back was our very own Ryan Hollingshead.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. I appreciate that. Let's also not forget the fact that Nkosi Tafari did play for 4 seasons at FC Dallas, so it was a homecoming for him as well. Over 120 caps playing for the boys in Frisco, so he gets to be back. He still has his Texas plates, by the way. I saw him driving in a BMO just a couple of games ago or a couple of weeks ago. In fact, it might have been the last LAFC game. This 3-game road scenario feels like we haven't played a home game in quite some time. I'm glad that comes to an end. It's been quite some time. So let's get into things. Look, we're not going to completely break down every single play of the game because I find that a little tedious. And if you've watched the game, you would probably say the same thing. But the biggest moment of the game, Lafferty. See what I did? I didn't call you Scarf. The biggest moment of the game. Put this one in your books. Son with a goal, baby. Free kick, amazing. The foul was drawn just outside of the box on Denny Bwanga. He drew it, enabling the free kick to occur. Could have been Denny. Normally, he would be the one taking those kicks, but it was our boy Sonny. Silky smooth shot that stuns Dallas's keeper. Takes the free kick just outside. World-class upper left corner. Fabulous. And listening back to the replay, you'd think we were in Los Angeles with the way the crowd was roaring. What a stunning goal for Sonny to start his LAFC campaign offensively.
Sonny with the stunny, baby. Look, you're right. It sounded like we were back in LA with how everybody was rooting for us or rooting for that goal. And if you watch the video too, you see everybody of every jersey and they're standing up applauding. There was one guy giving thumbs down on one of the clips that I saw, which I kind of laughed at. I thought it was funny. And good for you. Stand up for your team down there in Dallas. But look, I was very excited to see this because I think, one, it said, I think Bwanga probably went up to him and said, hey, don't make me tell you a 4th time. You're taking this kick. And he did. And I think we were all glad to see it. And I think it's good to kind of get that monkey off the back. Not that there was any pressure for Son to get his first goal, but I think after seeing a couple of near goals in the last 2 games prior to this one, we were wondering, when is it going to happen? When is he going to put one in the back of the net? So this was kind of good. Maybe it broke the dam, at least broke the ice for us fans who've been watching and wanting to see a goal from him. And it was exciting. It was a perfect placement for it, totally out of the reach of the keeper. There was no way that he was going to get that one. So I was very excited to see it. And I think that everybody was thinking at the same time, sorry, I'm getting tripped up thinking about how beautiful it was. Everybody in that moment was thinking, wow, is this the opening of the floodgates? Is this where it finally breaks and he's just going to start scoring at will? So there's a lot of excitement in the air right now from Son, and this definitely helps add to the lore watching such a beautiful shot from the man.
You said it best. Michael Colodi, the keeper for FC Dallas, had no chance of making that save, although he would get the last couple of laps, denying Sonny towards the end of the game. So LAFC, historically, and it was mentioned on the broadcast, but as we all know who've been following this team, LAFC is pretty darn good when they score first. 58 wins, 3 losses, and 6 draws in the Steve Cherundolo era when scoring first. So everything on our side Or so we thought. There was a quick response, unfortunately, though, from FC Dallas, a result of a buildup from the back, a beautiful pass that was intended for FC Dallas's Logan Farrington. It got headed back by Eddie Segura, but picked right back up by Dallas's Patrickson Delgado, who connects with Farrington, who, for all intents and purposes, again, gets the striker role as a result of Peter Musa's midweek illness. He slots it home, beating Hugo Lloris on the near side. The attempt looked like it got deflected off Nkosi Tafari, who, as we mentioned, spent the last 4 seasons in Frisco, but that creates the equalizer. Logan Farrington, his 5th goal of the season. The 23-year-old has been very solid for FC Dallas.
Yeah, it looked like a little bit of maybe a miscommunication between Tafari and Lloris, or just a mistake. I think though what I've been noticing, kind of unrelated to this goal in particular, but somewhat related, was that I'm seeing kind of like a good chemistry build between Tafari and Lloris, not just on the pitch, but you watch the videos that LAFC Instagram puts out on their Instagram and all their social medias. You see those two really like connecting, like arm in arm, like hugging, like just laughing, chatting it up. So I've got to feel like the chemistry is building on that back line between those two, which is great, because especially with Aaron Long being out for the rest of the year, you want those two guys especially to be on the same page. Since Tafari just has not had as much playing time as some of the other guys like Hollingshead, Palencia, and Segura on that back line. So I'm glad to see that. I thought that it got off to a little bit of a rough start for Tafari, this goal in particular for him. But I think overall, like, we're seeing a lot of growth and connection from him with this back line, where things are getting better, but there are still a few areas where things just seem to get around him, or opportunities are created at his expense. And it was just unfortunate that this one got cashed in by FC Dallas.
Yeah, for those Aaron Long haters out there, I hope you stick your feet in your mouth, because his omission from the lineup it's obviously, we're seeing it right now. I mean, Aaron Long is a solid defender. He has been for quite some time, going back to his days as a member of the New Jersey Energy Drinks. For the new listeners, that means the New York Red Bull. We jokingly refer to them as the New Jersey Energy Drinks. I'm from New York, so they live in Jersey. It's that kind of a thing. Poking, and I make fun of them, even though I spend quite a bit of money on the sugar-free Red Bull anytime I broadcast games. All right, I'm a hater. What can I say? But Aaron Long, regardless, was an important piece of our team defensively. Not any shade getting thrown on Nkosi Tafari, but when we get clean sheets and you don't mention the defender's name, that means they've had a stellar game. And Nkosi Tafari, it's been a bit of a learning curve for him. Like you said, building up his level of play, the chemistry between him and everybody else in that back line, an important piece. But he's a big kid, and he's a talented player. He wouldn't be in this position if he didn't have that. But either way, an unfortunate way for us to have Sonny's first goal spoiled, Logan Farrington with the equalizer. But the key moment of the game that sucked really, and we'll have to see and wait how long this is going to affect LAFC moving forward, was in the 25th minute, Igor Jesus going down. Now, he's been a consistent midfielder. Young kid. It was a non-contact scenario where he didn't get tackled. I don't know what it could have been. I can't speculate. Not even my wife, who works in med, could speculate on what it was, but non-contact. They pulled out the stretcher for a moment, which was a terrible sign, but luckily he was on his feet when he was helped off by LAFC's training staff, but he's been such a consistent player starting in the midfield at a mere 22 years of age. I'd hate to know exactly what happened to his knee. I hope it's not an ACL kind of a scenario, but it's going to be a question mark remaining for what his status is going to be for the rest of the season.
Yeah, a few observations about that. And again, I'm not a doctor. I got to preface that often when I say things like this. But look, one, I want to give a shout out to Sebastian Ibiaga, who was like one of the first people over there and like checking on him and like calling for people to get help for him. So, but also the look on his face as he was coming off, you saw him slamming the ground, Igor Jesus, a lot and often while he was being helped. So you can tell he was in a lot of pain, very frustrated and just and hurting while he was down on the ground there. The replay showed it was, pretty much like a non-contact injury, or maybe as he was making a turn. They haven't really gotten much more info about what happened, and I'd imagine that he was still being evaluated last night. So he looked like he was in serious pain after his face. Just, it was crushing me as he was coming off. I have to wonder, is it a good sign that he was later shown, like not too much later in the first half, just out on the bench area there, and not in a trainer's room being tended to somewhere, like taped up, wrapped up. I'm hoping that's a good sign. When I saw that, I thought, well, nobody's like talking with him, nobody's taping him up, nobody's working on his leg or anything. So I'm hoping maybe they figured it out and it's going to be something not serious. But the prospect of losing a player like Igor Jesus is one that I really dread. And we saw not the drop off, but we saw the impact that Aaron Long has had throughout the season, and it gets noticed a lot more and highlighted once he's off the pitch. So I'm hoping we don't have to go through that again with any of our other players, including Jesus.
For sure. Yeah, we're wishing him a speedy recovery, no question about that. Now, Logan Farrington, as we mentioned, the equalizer. He'd continue on attacking in the box, running through. Sergi Palencia would make a great play that draws the attention of the official and his whistle, a yellow card. And I'm glad the broadcast team said something. Look, I've spent the last 5 years doing broadcasts on ESPN, CBS, Spectrum, Fox Sports. You never really want to be too opinionated about things. You sort of want to let it play out. But I'm glad in this case that my initial thoughts were expressed, so to speak. There's no way that was a foul. There's no way that should have been a yellow card. But thankfully, to quote the George Michael sports machine from back in the day, let's go to the videotape. And it was determined that there was no foul, no yellow card, a drop ball. Way to go, VAR. Chalk one up for the good guys. And thank you, Pro. Pro, for those that don't know, is the governing body of the officials in Major League Soccer, the NWSL, whatever. I used to say that Pro is an acronym for pretty rancid officiating, which for the most part I will stick to. But in this case, with Ricardo Vieira making that call, Pro stood for pretty reasonable officiating. Now, that's very debatable throughout the entirety of the game from a macro perspective, but at least we didn't get hit in the gut at that point. Now, 36 minutes, Sonny would get another crack at goal after receiving a pass from Nathan Ordaz. He just didn't get enough boot to it, not whatsoever. And then, 12 minutes of stoppage. 12 minutes of stoppage.
Yes.
Are we back in the 2022 World Cup? Funny enough, though, even though 12 minutes, it wasn't the longest first half stoppage of the 2022 World Cup. I had to go look this up. A matchup between England and Iran was 14 minutes and 8 seconds approximately, and that was due to an injury to Iran's goalkeeper. But 12 minutes in stoppage in the first half. I get there was an injury. I get that there was a cooling hydration break in the 32nd minute, but either way, wild. Shots by each team to close out an incredibly long first half. Tillman would get one for LAFC, miss wide. Dallas's Anderson Julio and Dallas's Delgado, because we got one too, and that Amarki would have a couple of shots, but we go into the half 1-1. And how are you feeling at this point?
Well, I want to go back to something you mentioned, that non-foul on Palencia. I was really dreading it before they went to VAR, because that would put him at yellow card accumulation and have him out for San Diego if he did, in fact, get that yellow card from that play. So that's, aside from being glad that the penalty was overturned and that there was nothing, and that we potentially would have found ourselves down 2-1 going into the half, I was very glad that we also will not be losing Sergi Palencia for next week's game because of yellow card accumulation. So that was a huge relief that we got right there in that moment. I'm feeling okay. I think we were maybe a little shaken up with bringing in or taking Igor Jesus off. I think that kind of had us rattled a little bit. He's been a really steady presence for us. I am grateful that we have guys like Matthew Chonier who can come in to play for us. He's really proven himself to be a valuable commodity for us, not only in last week's game, but also in the final Leagues Cup game that we played in. He also made an appearance there and looked really good. I was very impressed with him, seeing him live and in person in that game. So to wrap out the first half here, I was very excited to see Son's goal. I was hoping that with that coming in, in the 6th minute, that would put us on pace to have 15 goals on the night. But that's not how soccer works. I get it now. So would have loved to have seen more fireworks like that. But nevertheless, here we are, knotted 1-1 going into the half.
15 goals. When was the last time you played FIFA? That's the only place you can see 15 goals. Jesus, 15 goals. Yeah.
Hey, a boy can dream, right? I look, I love it. I can hope for it. The excitement is there for it, even if not the practicality. Maybe I'm a little less reasonable than the officials are at Pro right there, as you call it. And by the way, a shout out to you as well. Wanted to say that. Because you, my friend, as a longtime listener of the show, who's heard a lot of things you've said about the pro referees, for you to say pretty reasonable officiating, that's a lot of growth from you, my friend. Good for you. Good for you, buddy.
Well, let me take a bow. Let me take a curtsy. Yes, I've.
Yes.
and I don't know if it's because I actually had time I spent with Ted Uncle during the TST tournament in North Carolina a couple of months ago. But yes, I've been very harsh on Major League Soccer officiating because in a lot of cases it's been pretty darn abysmal in a lot of ways. But watching a couple of the games this past weekend, VAR's been okay in it, and there's been some. The officiating's getting better. Let's put it that way. Not completely, but look, it's a little step in the right direction. It's a big deal. Now, as far as
maybe you're just getting soft. You're just getting soft, buddy.
yeah. Maybe. I mean, I hit 45. Jeez, yeah. Maybe I'm getting soft. Not hopefully in all places. But anyway, I digress. 9 shots for LAFC to FC Dallas' 7, 2 on target for each team. LAFC would control the lion's share of possession, better passing accuracy, and that's your first half. Like, I don't mean to bury the lead, but there really isn't too much to talk about in the second half. There were some moments worth noting, but all the goals occurred in the first half. 54th minute, we would think we had a goal. Unfortunately for Ryan Hollingshead, it would be called offside. Ryan Hollingshead looking to catch up to Breck Shea as being the all-time leading scoring defender in Major League Soccer. Breck Shea, Ryan Hollingshead, and of course, Graham Zusi, top 3 goal-scoring defenders in Major League Soccer, depending on whether you want to go all competitions or just regular season. Things flip-flop, but regular season, thus far, it's Breck Shea. And I mentioned this on One More Sleep. If you want to have an insight into Breck Shea, I got to interview him on our show, Soccer in 60, a couple months ago. He played in that USA-Mexico international game, almost a year ago. Really, really cool. Really, really cool guy. But yes, Ryan Hollingshead would get the goal denied. No question about that. I get it. 61st, a beautifully placed corner by Sonny. Denny headed it, got saved by Collodi. Ordaz was there for a rebound, but Collodi tightly held on to it and denied what could have been the go-ahead goal. But that wouldn't be the only bit of offense that we'd see from our new signing, would it be, Chris?
No, I mean, look, that was the thing about it. We were taking our chances all throughout the night. It's frustrating because we went up against a really good keeper last night. We got to give him his credit, but our attack is still there, and I think I think one place that we're really deep on this team is our attack right now, which is not how I felt all season, and in fact up until recently. But I think knowing that we have Son now, well, I'm still hoping that Jeremy Abobasi can find his way back in and continue to contribute. I look at our roster and I really like how our forwards have really started to they're making a case for themselves. Obviously, you got Martinez and Ordaz who kind of flip-flop for that starting role every game. But that seems to be kind of a healthy competition for the two of them. Belonga and Son are obviously locked, but as far as like the rest of our offense for the team, I'm liking what I'm seeing from them, and not only just our attackers, but also our wingers and our midfielders as well, finding themselves opportunities to get involved and create threats, which only spreads out our offense, spreading out their defense in turn, and making it more possible for us to get our opportunities. Unfortunately, the keepers we've been running up against are just not letting them all go in.
No, not at all. But in some cases, you got to be threatening too. 69th minute. Sorry. I got a little childish on that. I forever retain the spirit of youth, folks. That was my mantra in college as a part of my fraternity, and I'm clearly living it right there, giggling at silly little things like that. But Sonny's shot from outside of the box went right into the hands of Collodi, and I couldn't help but think any time that I'd hear Collodi, I'd think of Nickelodeon, which is right down the road from Philomonster Studios here in beautiful Burbank, California. I wouldn't say that was the last threatening opportunity, or even call it threatening, because it was on target, but no danger for FC Dallas there. We would get the LAFC. We would get a debut from Ryan Porteous coming in the second half, 79th minute. He played a pretty good game, got himself a good 27 touches, was pretty crisp on his passing. More on that later. 88th minute, the go-ahead was there, but the foosball god said no. Denny, who has been real quiet all night, blasts one, deflects off the noodle of Shaq Moore, and it hits our good friend Charlie Crossbar before getting cleared. That was close. That could have been the defining moment. What a way for Denny to have punched his name into the game at that point, but it just wasn't meant to be. And Laugh, I know how you want to give your thought on that, but I have to mention this before I forget it. You see Lalas Abubakar there as a part of the play. Look, it was all Shaq Moore. Now, Lalas, I respect the man's hair game, but it made me wonder, how the heck does the man sleep at night? Is he in the army crawl position? Is he sleeping on his left side? His right side? I can't imagine laying on your back is easy for a man with as impressive locks as he has.
Well, I'll tell you, as somebody who wears a headband on this show whenever we do the morning episodes, because the sun shining in makes it a little too bright and reflective off my receding hairline here, let's just say I have no idea what that feels like.
Fair enough. So that's the scenario on that play. Look, Shaq Moore had a brilliant game defensively for FC Dallas. He was really all over the place, taking care of clearances, coming up with recoveries. He won all his ground duels. Shaq Moore played a very good game for FC Dallas. Now, coming in a stoppage, that would be the question mark. We're going to get another 12 minutes worth of stoppage. In this case, with an injury and a hydration break, only 7 minutes. 7 minutes of stoppage. And into that, David Martinez, brother, the young Venezuelan with a venomous shot, was beautiful. Unfortunately, Collodi was feeling himself, Dallas's keeper, and got the best save of the game from any of the keepers. That was a great chance for LAFC to get their first win in Frisco since 2021, but alas, it didn't happen, but still a really good attempt for Martinez.
Yeah, look, here's the other thing we got to keep in mind, too, is that for as not great of a season that FC Dallas is having, they're also still in the playoff hunt. Okay, they're desperate. They're clawing and scratching for it. And we have a few games in hand on them, I believe. I haven't looked at what their schedule has been, but they're running out of time. So ultimately, while yes, we went in there last night, with aspirations of moving up in the table in the Western Conference, they have aspirations of moving up just to make sure they can get in the playoffs, not just looking at seeding. So we were going to come up against a team that was going to be completely on point because they had no other choice than to be at 100% focused. So, a lot of this I'm not surprised by. I knew coming into this we were going to be facing the toughest effort from FC Dallas. Whether or not that would translate in terms of talent, we had to wait to be seen. But where we're at right now, where we were at yesterday in this match, I'm not surprised when you see the performances from the goalkeeper. And I just want to call him Nickelodeon now that you said that. But from Collodi, yeah, Nick. Collodi he played a fantastic game. Like I said earlier, that shot from Son on the free kick Nobody was stopping that. But aside from that, he stepped up big for his team, and he got rewarded for it with a draw. I think that FC Dallas combined, they had a very good performance from everybody all around there, and a good effort for a team that's just trying to claw their way into the playoffs. Kind of what I expected from what a team in their position would be.
So with the draw, LAFC gets, I believe now their 8th draw of the Steve Cherundolo era when scoring first. 11 wins now, 6 losses, 8 draws on the season, 41 points. As it stands right now, currently in 5th place, just outside of the home field advantage going towards Major League Soccer's playoffs. Now, as far as, some things we could talk about, Sonny's goal was utterly incredible, world class. The things he does, the things that won't come on the stat sheet, the little intangibles, the way he makes his runs, the way he finds his teammates, the way he dribbles through defenders, he's an unbelievable talent. And you don't have to even understand the sport itself to realize how unbelievably skilled he is at 33. Doesn't matter what his age is. This kid is fantastic. I say 33. He's a kid. He's a kid as far as I'm concerned. He had his goal. His XG in terms of for that game was about 0.50. It's pretty solid with his passing. Pretty solid with his accuracy. He got himself about 70 touches, with 12 being in the opposition's box. He looked great. No question about it. He was the player of the game. Do you disagree?
No, I'm going to give it to him for sure, because like you talked about, things that aren't on the stat sheet. And I think there were a lot of plays where you're watching, and I could hear Chris Berman in my ears with college football coming back up now, or football coming back up now too. It's just whoop, whoop. And it just, all the way that he would like do his little okey dokes and just freak people out, or just fake people out, get them to go the wrong way. Just lots of times where you're like, wow, this guy is just such on another level from the people that are defending him. And it seems like a lot of times these guys from FC Dallas just had no answer for him. I mean, the way that he could control the ball to get around people, make them miss, and just completely whiff while they're trying to defend him, and then get a pass off to somebody else, was just absolutely stunning to watch. Now, I watched the first half on Apple TV, and I had to listen to the second half because I was on the road. I was driving. I listened to Dave Denholm on ESPN Radio, look, that is a fantastic experience. If you have to take in one of our games and you get the opportunity to listen because you can't watch it on TV, listen to Dave Denholm. My God. So I didn't get to see as many of those moves in the second half. But what I did see from him early on would lead me to agree that, yes, Son is the kind of guy who is just on a level above everybody else that he's playing against. That's not going to be an automatic in terms of goals and shots taken, but it is going to be an automatic for opportunities, because he sets us up for incredible plays and puts us in a position to make things happen.
100%. Let's address some of the comments in the chat. Bin Fan, thank you for joining us. Says, feels, if I'm understanding this correctly, sorry for Son. Looked like he tried to win the game by himself as others just watched him play. I have to disagree with you. If you look at the attempt by Denis Bouanga and David Martinez towards the end, you can't tell me that they were just watching Sonny play. Yes, Son clearly the best player on the pitch throughout the entirety of the game, but there were other attempts taken by other players. So I have to disagree with you, but thank you so much for chiming in. Ruben Rios.
Yeah, and about that too. About that comment too, I can see what he means. And look, and I would say this for anybody who's new to watching LAFC because of Son. It may look like it may look like people are just sitting back and watching, but I guarantee, having watched as many games from this team as I have, is that the effort is always there from our guys. I would never say that our guys would slack or anything. I think what anybody new who's watching is seeing is that the level of play that Son brings is just completely different from where the rest of the team has been throughout the season. And we're watching everybody get on the same page in real time. So there's also a big, not a disconnect, but there's been, there's still kind of a feeling out process. This is the third game in, so it looked a lot better. But I would not say that anybody's being pedestrian, even though it may look like that to the new eye. But certainly Son is bringing something that this team has never seen before. And I think everything is just in the process of aligning, getting ready for our biggest match against San Diego.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the entirety of the offense ran through Denis Bouanga all season long. Everything has changed dramatically. Even though LAFC has gotten 2 draws and a win in the last 3, it being on the road still a very good thing. You could see how the chemistry in the offense has changed. Give it a little bit more time, and then this is going to be a well-oiled machine. Ruben Rios in the chat asks, "Do we renew Hollingshead's contract?" I think we have 2 more years in him. Lafferty, I'll give you the word on this.
Look, while earlier in this season, I made a comment about how Smolyakov looked really good and like a mini Ryan Hollingshead out there. And I got kind of bombarded in the chat with, whoa, he's not on the same level as Ryan Hollingshead, whatever, like a lot of things to that essence. I'm excited by the emergence of Artem Smolyakov and what he's been able to do this season for us. It's a lot of things that I've seen his potential to be, and now it's finally coming to fruition. But I think that Ryan Hollingshead is somebody who we should not be getting rid of after this season, or letting him go, however that may come about, for a couple of reasons. One, his play is still very good. He's somebody that is, we talk about in the midfield, you have a guy like Igor Jesus as like, the maestro or the metronome, as they referred to him on the broadcast last night. But kind of down that side that Ryan plays, he's kind of the one orchestrating a lot. How many times have we seen passes from Ryan Hollingshead to Denis Bouanga for drives into the box, right? Ryan is not just a great defender and somebody who's been very valuable to our defense this year, but somebody who also is a catalyst for our forwards in our attack. So I think Ryan can still play at a very high level, is still a very skilled player out there, somebody that we need. And I think if we let him go, it would be a big drop off. So no, I would be very, very wary of the prospect of moving on from Ryan Hollingshead after this season. I think we still got some time with him, and I think he's still got a lot of gas left in the tank.
Very good points. I think Lunch Special Gio would agree with you about Smolyakov over Hollingshead. He also says Martinez over Ordaz. I guess it depends on the situation, but both players have had very solid seasons. Nathan Ordaz, his best season in Major League Soccer, and David Martinez really coming into his own. As far as Moran needing to start right away, where did I see that comment? Oh, yeah, there it is. Lunch Special Geo as well. Yeah, I mean, what's the point of bringing him in on a loan for the rest of the year if he's not going to get much burn? Obviously, we still got to wait for his P1 visa to clear and that international transfer certificate, but he's going to get busy right away. Now, yeah, look, Coleman said something on Twitter recently about if the schedules do align with Major League Soccer and the rest of the world, it'll be a lot better in terms of these transfers. And I couldn't help but agree. It sucks having to bring in a player with 7 games left to go during the season and expecting for them to really fit into a team trying to make a run for a title. I find it to be a cumbersome thing, and it's just not very. It's just unfortunate for the players themselves, not getting a lot of time to get acclimated with their teammates and having all these expectations. In the chat, Ruben Rios, we need points. We need them like fish need water, 100%. Lunch Special Geo, we love losing points from winning positions. Yeah, all the darn time. Ruben Rios, LAFC's greatest enemy, LAFC. Yeah, we've always said that. There aren't teams that really beat LAFC. LAFC beats themselves. Jorge Hernandez, we have to beat San Diego. You're absolutely right. I'm going to address one more because we're getting close to that hour mark. And I couldn't help but agree with this 100% only. LAFC says LAFC seem to be good at missing chances, unfortunately. Yes. I mean, how many opportunities can we create for ourselves and shoot ourselves in the foot by either missing widely or just kicking it right into the hands of a capable keeper. We create the opportunities. We're put in positions to succeed, but LAFC often at times, struggle to bury it.
I'm going to address that though as well. And here's my optimist take on that take right there. Is
Forever
that
the optimist, rarely the pessimist. That's one Chris Lafferty.
Yes, hopefully. And you know what? I'll even put my hat on for this because I'm feeling rowdy about this. Here's the thing: throughout the earlier stages of the season and through the midway point to a very frustrating recent point, I felt is that this offense, now we're talking about how we're just not putting away chances, we're not finishing the opportunities, or we're not able to get the shots off that we want to, or how we want them, or in the position that we want them to be. That is a big step up from where we had been earlier in this year, where I felt that this team was, I used the word throughout the season, impotent. I thought our offense was just going nowhere. They couldn't get anything going, or they would get into the box and immediately it was just all about like, oh, cool. Okay. Where do I pass from here? There was almost like there's no intention to go for goal on it. Our players would just get into the box, into the 18, and just kind of like dance around, juke and jive, and try to find a player to pass it off to, and hopefully they could, and just kind of play hot potato until the other team's defense stepped up and cleared it out. Look, I was so frustrated earlier in this year watching all of that happen. So now, while we're having these, I think if the biggest issue is going to be that, well, we're getting shots, but they're just not going in, I will certainly take that 100% of the time over what we had been displaying throughout the earlier portions of the season, where we just weren't even taking shots at all. So the fact that we're going out there now and giving it our all and giving a go at it, heck, I'll take it, because something's going to give pretty soon, but at least we're putting ourselves in the opportunity, giving ourselves the opportunity to find something in the back of the net. You miss 100% of the shots that you just don't take, and we just weren't taking shots earlier in the year. So hopefully now we start looking like Wayne Gretzky on the hockey ice right now, only out there on the soccer pitch, and hopefully we start putting some goals in the back of the net at record pace.
I don't know about not taking shots. I mean, more often than not, LAFC would have far more shots than the opposition, including far more shots on target with a much higher XG. Just the execution of things hasn't been there. Now, it may look that way as of right now because we're all excited and jovial about our new signing, and we are playing better. But I would have to disagree, my man, in terms of LAFC not necessarily taking as many shots. They've always been put into a position with their tactics, despite what a lot of people may think, to succeed. But as one comment did say, and it was Ruben Rios, LAFC's greatest enemy has been LAFC. The lack of execution, not there. I mean, how many times have we referred in our keys to the game as finish your chances? Finish your chances wouldn't be a key to the game if we weren't firing at will. But the one thing I will say, though, is it might look that way because there are more players firing at will, because a good portion of the season, goals came by way of Denis Bouanga. Anyway, moving along, LAFC has, I would say, a pretty successful road campaign. Look, they haven't been great on the road all year. 3-3-6 right now, but to pull 5 points out of a possible 9, not awful. This could have been a horrid stretch. We haven't won in Frisco in a while. We could have been ugly in Chicago, losing to another team that was potential for playoffs. The New England Revolution game was probably the more convincing, but all in all, I would say a successful road campaign. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. Look, I had the good fortune of being at one of those games, the Chicago game. I liked what I saw there. I think that we were a little bit fatigued coming off of the Leagues Cup run against a fresh Chicago team who had nothing to do but go to Lollapalooza in those 2 weeks. And then we, had a week off before our next game, which was another cross-country trip even further out to New England, where we looked really well. We looked really good. We played really well on an unnatural surface, something that we weren't really used to, and we came away with 2 points and a clean sheet. So I was happy with that. And I think all of this while incorporating new players in here, not just Son, but also more of Matthew Chonier and Porteous and all these other players. So the thing was, I think we're finally starting to see not only this team play well on the road, but also play well incorporating new players into it. So it's still a work in progress coming into this homestand. And I think that we were able to solve a lot of problems and work out a lot of kinks while on the road, which says a lot. And the fact that we came away with at least 1 point in every game that we were away from BMO Stadium, I've got to feel really good about that. Would have loved to get 4 more points total out of this stretch, but hey, we got one in everybody in every game. So I'm going to take it. I have no choice but to take it, but I'm going to be happy about it because I feel good about the chances that we are taking, even if they weren't finding the back of the net. I feel good about our overall performance and play coming off of an exhausting League Cup stretch with 3 games in 2 weeks. And I have a feeling that the coming back into our atmosphere of BMO Stadium, the excitement that this team has for the possibility of what we can do now with upgrades in a lot of different positions. There's a lot to be excited for, not only if you're an LAFC fan, but if you're an LAFC player as well. And I think that excitement is going to show through in their play coming up into this next home stretch.
The thing that's unfortunate is even though we did draw yesterday, in a way we lost. And what I mean by that is Igor Jesus down for who knows how long. That's certainly an L. And we've lost Ryan Hollingshead for an important fixture against Supporter Shield leaders Brillo Pad FC. Why am I calling them Brillo Pad? I don't know. That's what the logo reminds me of. Chrome FC, whatever. Shockingly enough, very shockingly enough, they've already clinched a spot in the postseason. First team to do so with so much time. They're looking to be the first expansion team to come out and win a Supporter Shield. They're making a really strong argument. Although they didn't get the job done at home, the pesky Pine Trees of Portland managed to keep them at bay, and they squeaked out a point against a very tough STFC team. But it's going to be really difficult on August the 31st, which according to Apple TV, that game's going to be at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it's going to be a long day. Fortunately for many of us is we all have the day off on Monday. I don't want to say all, that's a generalization, but most of us have the day off on Monday for Labor Day. So that's going to be a real important game. I got friends that live down in San Diego right now that are newbies when it comes to Major League Soccer. And I got to say, they're feeling themselves a bit too much, thinking they really are the hot ish and the bee's knees and all the other jazz. And we absolutely need to smack them back down to reality and let them know that San Diego, for the most part, and at least in terms of professional sports, not indoor soccer, is the little brother to Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, and what will be the shortest statement that I make on an episode of Defenders of the Bank, and one that's not long-winded, all I can say about them feeling really good and them feeling cocky, let them come on up to BMO Stadium and we'll put them back down in their place.
And I couldn't have said it any better myself. Folks, one last thing, actually, I forgot to show. I didn't want to. You talked about the tarps at Toyota.
At Toyota Stadium?
Toyota Arena. I couldn't help but think back to where Scarf and I had the opportunity to see the games at BMO Stadium when it was just the tarps. I got a little PTSD, not going to lie. And I look back in my phone, September 2021, I think, whatever. This is what it looked like for those who weren't there. 1 hour, 3 minutes into the pod. That was the stadium. That's what it looked like. Yeah. The only people that were in attendance were people that were media, such as myself and Scarf. This is during a game right here. Check this out.
University of Phoenix. First, tonight's honorary falconer, Raul Polite.
That's what the world looked like back a couple of years ago. So wild, and couldn't help but get the PTSD seeing the tarps in Frisco. But anyway, that's all the time we have here. We're over an hour. I like to keep it under an hour, but we effed up in that regard. But as Ruben Rios says in the chat, don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, hashtag shoulder to shoulder. We'll be back next week for a preview of the game against Brillo Pad FC, and that's their name from here on out as far as I'm concerned. Bottom line, Philly 316 said so. On behalf of myself, Christian Philly Philemin, the Platinum Tip Flamingo, and my buddy Chris O'Doul's Hop Along Lafferty. I want to say thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Defenders of the Bank. And if Chris, you have any final words? Otherwise, I'm going to say bye.
Just a big old thanks to everybody.
All right. And on that note, enjoy the rest of your weekend.